Folks, this may be your 10th piece of Ben Chiarot content of the day, but it doesn't matter. A big move has happened, the one that we have all been waiting for as Habs fans. Ben Chiarot goes to Florida. What we're going to tackle, what was the trade? You probably already know. Is Ben Chiarot a good hockey player? That's the second question. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Maybe some questions heading into the deadline for the Montreal Canadiens. If you like Habs content, you have come to the right place. Join alongside me is Alex, Justin. Together, we make the No Respect podcast. All right, boys, let's take a look at Ben Chiarot's face on this one, just to start it off. Your immediate reaction when you heard that this fellow, number 8 for the Montreal Canadiens, was headed to Florida. Alex, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think we were all expecting a trade to happen, and it did. Florida, some people may have said it was unexpected, but they were in the rumors. Obviously, they're going to be a contending team. It's a good piece for them to acquire. So, yeah, not too surprised to see him move. We had to get value for him before the deadline. His contract's expiring. And we got what I believe to be good value. We got that all-important first-round pick, so I'm pleased with the return. And not happy to see him go, but we had to do what needed to be done, and Kent Hughes did.
Yeah. Justin, anything to add on to your immediate reaction when you heard Big Ben going over to the is it Sunshine State? I don't know.
It is, yeah, where they make oranges, I assume.
Excellent.
But yeah, I mean, I think Kent Hughes played it perfectly. He got some flack for kind of not being sure if he's waiting too long, if he's trying to get too close to the deadline, if he was going to get the first rounder. But he got the first rounder, 2023, in a deep draft. So, I mean, A+ for Kent Hughes on this trade for sure.
Yeah, let's get into the details of the actual transaction here so that you guys see it. You probably already know. We've got Ben Chiarot, obviously the only piece going to the Florida Panthers that are looking to go all in. That's the one thing that's clear because they're giving away Tyler Smolanic. Or Smolanich, I don't know, but it's probably Smolanic. There's the first round pick, not for this year because they don't have theirs for this year. So it goes to Connor Bedard's draft. We'll get into him later. The fourth round pick, obviously some extra sweetener on this juicy cake of a transaction for the Montreal Canadiens. And to segue into our next kind of weird question when it comes to Ben Chiarot is that people... Obviously, Kent Hughes made it apparent that he wanted to trade this guy and that the value that he was looking for was something similar to David Savard, the thing that we saw last year with the Tampa Bay Lightning, which was a first and a third. That was a lot. And let me say that from the get-go. This is a definite overpay for Ben Chiarot. And this comes with the fact that you have a slight bidding war with teams that are competing. And let me say that off the bat. And then my next question to segue in is Ben Chiarot a good hockey player? And so we're going to show you his stats if we can do that very quickly. So right now this season, 7 goals for Ben Chiarot, 11 assists. And the thing is that you're seeing a little bit of a tendency in the -16, -18 between 2020, 2021, and of course this season that's been an absolute disaster apart from when Marty St. Louis has joined the team. So from there, can we start the conversation for you guys? Is Ben Chiarot a good hockey player? Alex?
Yeah, I think people take it too far in both directions. Is Ben Chiarot a game changer, amazing hockey player that should be on your first D pairing? No. But is he a trash replacement level player? No as well. I think he's a perfectly serviceable defenseman who can step up and play huge minutes like he showed us in the playoffs last year. Do you want him to be that big all-important piece on your team? No. But he's definitely a very serviceable player, physical, imposing, tough to play against, and he pitches in with goals sometimes. He goes on streaks where he's making these offensive plays that will surprise you, that are fun to watch. He's a decent skater. So yeah, I think he's an okay player. People, I think, go too far with either they think he's amazing and we can't let him go, or he's just awful and no team should want him. So I deem him an okay player, a guy you want on your team, but not to be your number 1, number 2, even number 3 guy. But he's a very serviceable player.
Yeah, and heading into the playoffs, I mean, Justin, well, Alex as well. We all lived the experience last year, which was magical and pretty much a one-off from now where we are as Montreal Canadiens fans. But Justin, for a team like Florida that's adding Ben Chiarot, what can you tell to maybe some Floridian fans of what to expect from Ben Chiarot's game, if you can?
Yeah. I mean, like Alex said, he's not the flashiest defenseman. Like he's pretty much a solid middle six defenseman, I'd say. And the thing about Ben Chiarot that I think is the best part of his game is he's tough to play against. Like, especially in the playoffs, if you want to go in the slot against Ben Chiarot, good luck. Like, get some extra vertebrae from the back seat, because ask Austin Matthews, he got hit quite a bit in the back there. So, I mean, he's hard to play against, and that, I mean, playing with Shea Weber last year in the playoffs definitely helped that. Like, they were a very tough pair to play against, but Florida has Radko Gudas, too. So, if Toronto faces them, Matthews going to have a sore back, that's for sure.
Yes. Let's head into the. I guess this is an image from Jay Fresh. It's I guess like a statistical overview of Ben Chiarot and the WAR percentage. I am not a big analytics guy. I'll say that outright. What I do think this says is not the complete picture on Ben Chiarot. And if you're looking at this, basically what it's saying is that Ben Chiarot is going to give you 10%. This WAR percentage is going to give you 10% better than any random waiver wire pickup. And that's where I think it's not giving you the complete picture for Ben Chiarot. So I know that people take a look at these stats and usually live and die by that sword, but for me, that makes almost no sense, because even Kent Hughes, who was speaking today during the press conference, who's a big believer in analytics, describes it as being valuable information, but it will never betray what you can see with your eyes. It's a compliment. It's not the whole story. And if I don't want to, it's probably going to be polarizing for some that absolutely love analytics. And again, it's valuable information. But for me, Ben Chiarot is not, it's just some average, just like, you know, if you pick up anybody like even a Victor Mete that has great analytics, I think Ben Chiarot is a much better player than people think, and it's not just about these numbers. That's my take. I don't know.
Until they start tracking data from like every possible stat, every possible thing that you could think of on the ice, like stride lengths, like the amount of takeaways, like in certain situations, like there's some things that you just simply cannot get through analytics. So like you said, I totally agree. I think it's a part of the equation, but it can't be the whole equation.
Once they start adding intimidation per 60, they started, I'm not going in the corners per shift percentage. Fuck that. I don't want Ben Chiarot on me. I don't know what the percentages are, but it doesn't tell the whole picture. And there is a portion. And when you play hockey, if you played hockey, when a big man is coming at you, and Paul Byron talked about this when describing, you know, what Ben Chiarot meant for this team, is by game 3, game 4, in a playoff series, when Ben Chiarot has been nailing you to the boards, you don't have the same instinct that you had in game 1, which is to go in the corners and get the puck first. And that, if you're a Florida fan, you should expect from Ben Chiarot. And he can chip in offensively here and there. So, interesting enough. All that being said, let's maybe get into the return. We spoke about a little bit about Kent Hughes talking today, saying that, you know, Florida is getting a player that's going to help them get to the next step to compete for a Stanley Cup. For a Stanley Cup, and that's the type of player that they're acquiring with Ben Chiarot. And then, obviously, from a more emotional side, we loved Ben Chiarot for what he did. He gave his heart and soul, loved every single minute of it. So just quickly, we thank you, Ben Chiarot. If we could just get that little image that we saw from Twitter real quickly. Look at him. Beautiful. Number 8, Chiarot. We love you. Yeah. And he didn't rule out the possibility of coming back to Montreal. True.
That's true.
So, that is true.
And
is
another
right.
little tidbit of information is that he was close. Well, I mean, there were rumors about him being close to signing an extension last offseason, which would have been a whole different can of worms. But
yes, yeah.
Obviously, we're not in that situation. Marc Bergevin is fired, and we're in a different era.
different context. It was 16, 36, and 8, and it's still brutal. Let's get into the return for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, Tyler, let's get to the name again. Smilanic, okay? So, obviously, right now, in terms of the value of the trade, it's not living and dying by Tyler Smilanic. It's definitely that first round pick. Do you guys have any, I know that we looked, we don't necessarily follow every prospect from A to Z, but any thoughts on acquiring this type of player for the Montreal Canadiens? Alex, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting in that maybe months ago when Kent Hughes came in and that Tyler Toffoli deal happened, and they mentioned a guy like Heineman that we acquired, that they'd rather go for guys like this instead of second, third round picks, fourth round picks, guys who maybe aren't stagnating, but just aren't those top end prospects, but who are further ahead in their development that we can have a better idea of where they might end up. So I think a guy like Smilanic fits that. According to Panthers writers and stuff, he was maybe 7th or 8th on their prospect list, not their top end prospect, but a guy who has potential. People say he's fast, has some decent offensive skills, and as he's gotten older, has become more responsible defensively. So he's a guy that they're hoping can fit in the bottom 6 and kind of less of a gamble, let's say. So they think he has a realistic shot of making that bottom 6. We probably won't see him as a top end, high level NHL player. But if you can fill in your bottom 6 with guys like this on cheap deals that have a good shot of making it, that helps build the future of this team. And you can figure out the rest around that, knowing that you have a lot of these guys who will be able to come in and fill that bottom 6. So I think it's a smart acquisition. Again, I'm not expecting him to be a world beater, but a decent return. And like you mentioned, he's not the core piece in this trade. So why not? Also, apparently it's a guy that Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, their sons have played with or played against. So it's a known quantity. So this is a guy they knew they wanted and they went for it. So until they prove me wrong with their decisions or prove themselves wrong with their decisions, I'll support it. And I think it's a good deal.
Yeah. And again, at the end of the day, it's the first round pick and the shot at Mr. Connor Bedard.
And let me say, I don't think we said it earlier, but it's an unprotected first round pick. So if something happens and Florida falls off a cliff next season,
we saw it with
getting 2 Connor Bedards.
Yeah, San Jose. We saw it with the the Ottawa Senators too, right? When they traded away, and that pick turned into Cale Makar for the Colorado Avalanche. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong there, but don't quote me on that one. Definitely don't quote me on that one. Yeah, definitely wrong. But yeah, we've got some pictures of Connor Bedard, and that's exactly it. Is it likely that this gentleman that's absolutely tearing it up? I can't remember the exact stats, but I think it's like 70 points in 39 games, something ridiculous right now for this kid. Is it likely to happen? No. You're throwing in a ticket, and why not? If it's not going to be Connor Bedard, it's going to be a first-round pick, and the percentage of hitting on those are much higher than anything else, so it's still value. So, at the end of the day, if you're unhappy with this trade, I don't get it. Listen, for Ben Chiarot, this was an overpay, and it's exactly the type of value that you should have had. Maybe some people are arguing that we could have maybe gotten some more value if we waited towards the actual deadline date, which would have been Monday, but there's a risk that comes with that, and that's what Kent Hughes described, and they felt that they got the best offer that they were good with and that they were very happy to accept from the Florida Panthers. So I think that about does it for today's video. Obviously, there's some other pieces that might be moved. At the end of the day, there's Arturi Lehkonen. Is he leaving? We don't know. It would probably make sense selling high on this value that's been absolutely all-time high. So there's him. There's Brett Kulak that they're not intentionally trying to trade right now, apparently, but things can happen. So for Alex, for Justin, myself, Mackie, we shall see you soon. I don't know why you're laughing. You screwed up my outro. Was there something you wanted to add?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. We'll see you guys next time.